Willits is our town. Always has been, and always will be. Like any other town, it changes just a little bit from time to time. So we're here to let you know some of the things that are going on in your town.
Good evening. My name's Bruce Burton. I'm the mayor of the city of Willits. Was just elected mayor in December of this year. However, I have been on the city council starting in 1992 and served as mayor in the 94, 95, 2 years in there, and again around the year 2000, 99 to 2000, something like that. I was on the council until 2004. Did 12 years on the city council, and then was reelected back to the council here a year ago. Larry Stransky has been our mayor in the last year. Decided he didn't want to be mayor for another term, which is usual to take a 2-year term, and as vice mayor, I was elected back to the mayor's job. This evening, I'd like to talk about a variety of issues that the city is dealing with, and I think has community interest. We'll talk some about our roads. We'll talk some about the freeway bypass. We'll talk some about our half-cent sales tax and how we spend it to improve roads, and what people in the community might do to get to participate in the community and help us along. And I also want to talk some about our budget, because I think that is an issue that is on a lot of people's minds, city employees especially, but community members as well. So first off, I think we'll talk about the budget, and as everybody that reads or listens knows that revenues for public agencies are down, and the city of Willits is no exception. I don't think we've been hit quite as hard because we have had our sales tax, which is the main source of income for communities. Our sales tax doesn't fluctuate quite as dramatically as other communities because we don't have big ticket items. We don't have, especially car dealerships, I think end up being a huge source of income for communities. Good or bad, we don't have that. So our sales tax is not quite as hard as hit as others. We took an action last summer to try and look at what we could do to minimize the impact to our employees and service, and when we offered a voluntary retirement to any employees that were eligible. We actually had 7 people step forward in that offer, and an amazing number of years of service to the community. And just so I don't forget anybody, I wrote them down. Joe Mondo worked at the sewer plant 17 years. He worked for me before that. I can't believe it was that long. But anyway, Joe Mondo. Denny Kane ran the water department, worked for the water system well over 20 years with the city. Leah Oberdorf, again with the water department and billing, and Laura also in the office and billing. Christy Whitey, who was a police dispatcher, worked in the police department. Dave Madrigal, Public Works, ran Public Works department, again over 20 years with the city. And finally, Marilyn Harden worked in the front office and human resources director, did just a little bit of everything, but acted as assistant to the city manager at times. But anyway, these people were up at retirement qualifications, and they opted to take a little early retirement for a couple of them. And we have now looking at which ones we're going to backfill. Some of those positions we're going to have to refill, but some of them will account for savings in the budget. Additionally, we are looking now at a mid-year budget review, which will be here in the middle of this month. I think January, middle to the end of January, we're going to do a budget review and look at what else we have to do. There is obviously the city's finances are 70% of them are with the police department and public safety. So, and 90% plus has to do with wages. I mean, it's people. So it's really hard to look at doing any substantial savings in the city that aren't going to affect people. So we're going to look at our mid-year budget and what we may be able to accomplish with these retirements in terms of savings. But unfortunately, I think the city is going to have to look at additional ways of saving money. Makes it difficult, but really, government really needs to have this kind of a check every once in a while. Government will grow constantly if you keep feeding it money. And so I try and do this with the most compassion or with attention to details, I think that overall it is not unhealthy for government to experience times of decreased revenues. It's because I think that they really do need to constantly look at the services they provide and are they necessary or are they luxuries. So that's where we're going with the budget. I think you will be seeing more about it, whether it's in this forum or in city council meetings that are televised on by this group, or it's in the newspaper. But more to follow on that in a very short while. A couple things that I think are important to mention in regards to that. There are two, the water department and the wastewater department are what we call enterprise funds, and those monies are not commingled with the city's general fund money. And the people that work for those budgets are covered by the fees that you pay in water and sewer bill, which is collected on the property tax bill. I know that we have instituted some rather dramatic increases in both of those departments to the community. I was a bit surprised when we had our last rate increase hearing on the sewer or wastewater plant, and everybody was mailed a notice that if they could respond by a date to the city and protest that rate increase, then that rate increase wouldn't go through, the city wouldn't be allowed to put it in place. We only got about 50 or 60 people or tax parcel numbers that oppose that. I sent mine in, but that is where you have a chance to step forward and be heard on these things. And it was well publicized that not only in the mailing but in the paper as well, that you have a chance to step forward on that. The city is really being pushed hard by the Regional Water Quality Control Board on some issues that I don't entirely agree with relative to the discharges from our wastewater plant. And they're forcing us and have forced us to make some very expensive plans for that plant that I'm not convinced they're going to increase the quality of our wastewater, but they will finally get these people to back off and relative to their cease and desist orders with the city. A long topic, probably a deal for itself, but anyway, the water and wastewater systems We have upgrades, substantial upgrades coming along. We got a good report back on our dam, on the quality of the construction of our dam that was built in the early 20s. We were concerned about how that was going to be viewed in terms of earthquake issues, but it seemed to it passed its engineering tests here in the last few months with flying colors. The next issue relative to the city, and it's kind of a budget issue, is the half-cent sales tax. When I was on the council before, and I'm guessing we put this through in somewhere between 2000 and 2002, somewhere in there, the city agreed to have the sales tax raised to 1/2 cent if that money would go to fixing streets. And in that last 6 years that we've done that, we have repaired and resurfaced a number of streets in the community. The latest one, or ones that are slated for upgrades, is West Commercial Street, and there was that one I'll talk about just briefly. There was a substantial amount of community input on that, and here in the next construction season, I think that project will be built, and I think you'll see quite a new street design for the city, and I think it is definitely going to have more pedestrian and slower traffic, and I think it will make that street much more of a finished looking street, and I think the businesses that are around that will find that it will be much more accommodating to people visiting that area and doing business in that. This council recently asked the staff to take another look at the Railroad Avenue kind of in-town bypass idea of doing a Railroad Avenue extension and connecting it with Bechtel Road. There seems to be a high level of agreement on the city council that they think that is a project that deserves more attention and would be a project that they could see as a high priority for the city. The issue with the freeway bypass, which I'll get to in just a second, will hopefully eliminate or reduce some of the congestion in town, but especially during the construction phase, I think that we're going to have even greater congestion in town. And that Railroad Avenue alternative, as well, you could look at also a west side alternate of connecting North Street into Coast Street. There's a bit of a grade there, but that has been looked at as well, and that would also be another north-south arterial that would be an alternative to Main Street. So the city is looking at these some, and the council has a high interest in maybe using the sales tax, half-cent sales tax, to move some of a project like that forward. Central Street is being engineered for a overlay upgrade, sidewalk, curb and gutter, and overlay upgrade. Whether that will be funded and constructed, or it will just be a ready-to-go project, waits to be seen. We have some rather interesting storm drain issues when you get into that area of town. That's a low area, and getting rid of stormwater it ends up adding a lot to the cost of projects, and that's part of what we're looking at, both in Railroad Avenue, obviously, and in Central Street.
Hello. Perhaps there's some people out there who don't really know what Willits Community Television is all about. Or, for example, what is this public access that they refer to? We'd like to tell you a little bit about what you see on channels 3, 64, and 65, and how you can participate and get your creations onto Willits TV, and even worldwide through the internet if you so desire. It really is very simple. You and your friends and associates produce a video on any subject of your choosing. If you have the equipment, great. And if you don't, we can lend you equipment and show you how to use it. And if you need help in editing your video, we can even help you with that. So if you can imagine, it's just like having a local YouTube airing all your interests. Your interest in sports, activities, community, family, funny stuff, and anything else that you can think of. And did we mention it doesn't cost you a dime? That's kind of hard to beat. Until recently, we were simply known as Channel 3 TV. And now, in addition, on Channel 64, you can view local government programming, such as your city council and your District 3 supervisors hammering away at the issues that interest you all. But there's even more. On Channel 65, you can get the scoop on everything that's happening around Willits. And if you want to publicize an event or a nonprofit activity, just let us know. Our email is info@willitstv.org, and our telephone number is 459-2528. And if you really want to visit us, come on down to the Carnegie Library building located at 85 East Commercial Street. We look forward to hearing from you and sharing your videos. Come join us. Okay.
Whoops.
Good evening and welcome. It's so good to see everybody here tonight. A lot of the faces I've seen years and years and years that we've had this tradition here, and so good to see so many of you here again this evening.
Once since you hear words of good cheer from everywhere filling the air, oh how they pound, raising the sound over and they'll tell in their tongues, gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here, sound over and they'll tell in their tongues, gaily they ring while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding ding dong.
us be love. Let all around us be peace. Will I have peace like a river? I have peace like a river. I have peace like a river in my soul, in my soul. I have peace like a river. I have peace like a river. I have peace like a river in my soul.
That's it. But there are refreshments back in that corner.
All right, boys and girls, let's get around the fireplace and listen to a good Christmas story. 'Twas the night before Christmas is what I'm going to read today for you. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were nestled all snug in their beds, with visions of sugar plums dancing in their heads. And Ma in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled down for a long winter's nap. When out on the lawn there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter and threw back the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave luster of midday to objects below, when what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeers, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles the courser he came, and he whistled and he shouted and he called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, on Donner and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves before the wild hurricanes fly, when they met with an obstacle mountain to the sky. So up to the housetop the courser they flew, with a sleigh full of toys and St. Nicholas too. And then in a twinkle I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my head and had turned around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ash and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses and nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth drew up like a bowl, and the beard on his chin was as white as snow. The stump of a pipe held tight in his teeth, and a smoke had encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a little round belly, and it shook when he laughed like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of the eye and a twist of the head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work, and filling the stockings then turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, and to his team he gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. but I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night."
Welcome to our 15th annual solstice celebration. This evening we celebrate the turning of the wheel of the seasons, the beginning of winter, the long cold nights, the time for hibernating and dreaming after a season of harvest and hard work. We offer you an evening of magical song and the spiral dance to warm the heart and strengthen our community bonds. In the days to come, the sun is returning to us with longer days, heartening our spirits and bringing hope to each soul.
It is timely for us to reconnect tonight, as we are certainly in the midst of extremes, and some of us are experiencing hardships as never before. Let us tonight recognize that we are all one family, and together we can make it through anything. Let us recognize our shared community and enjoy what we have in the warmth of love.
Now come with us to a mythical time when the old ways and the new intermingled, before the old ways were forgot. Wassail, Yule, and Christmas meet for your delight. Sit back and enjoy. The longest night is upon us.
Cristo Dei Filio, Redemptori Domino, Puerulo Iacenti in Presepio. Ein kleines Kindlein liegt in dem Krippelein. Alle liebe Engelein dienen dem Kindlein. Alle liebe Engelein salute, unigenito, Cristo Dei Filio, Redemptori Domino, Puerulo Iacenti in Presepio. Your wassail, and it's our wassail, and a jolly come to a jolly wassail. There was an old man, and he had an old cow, and how for to keep him he could not tell how. He built up a barn to keep his cow warm, for no harm, boys, harm, no harm, boys, harm, and a carb of good liquor will do us no harm. out to hang the stocking stuffers.
Oh, it's getting very hectic in my house, preparing for the busy feast. And all the shopping stores are getting older, websites on the end, planners getting stronger. Where is all the simple, meaty charm and reason
That we celebrate together for the season.
all of them? Merry Christmas advertisements never charm. No more time to talk, have nothing more to say, but Merry Christmas one and all.
So that's about it for now. Things are happening in Willits, as they always are, and things are changing, as they always do. Yet it's still the same familiar hometown we've all come to know and appreciate for what it is. We'd like to know what's happening with you, with your families, and the organizations which would not exist without your efforts and support. So give us a call at 459-2528 and let us know what's going on with you. Maybe you'll be a part of our next story. Keep tuned and join us next time to see what's happening this week in Willits.